Again, we're recording this morning's session. The webinar is How Great Technology Professional Service Companies Manage Headwinds and Excel. And this morning we're lucky to have Service Performance Insight as one of our hosts, as well as Pariveda Solutions, which was in a recently selected as one of the best by SPI Research in their annual survey. And my name is Blake Bisson. I'm the Product Marketing Director with Tenrox by Upland Software. Just a few things. We're going to, SPI will be start the presentation this morning in just a minute after I do the introductions and some housekeeping. Then we'll hand it off to Pariveda Solutions to talk a little bit about their implementation and best practices. I'll come back and do the Upland Software and Tenrox PSA section and talk a little about what we do. We'll do a questions and answers. And then at the very end, we'll show you the PDU credit information that we've promised for everyone today. You will be eligible for one PDU credit if you attend the session. And once again, I'm recording it, and we'll be sending it out to everyone within about a couple of days. We send it out along with the slides. With that, let me do the introductions and do the handoff. The first presenter this morning is David Hofferberth. He is a Service Performance Insight founder, managing director, and a licensed professional engineer. He has served as an industry analyst, market consultant, and product director. He is focused on the services economy, especially productivity and technologies that help professional services organizations perform at their highest capacity. Dave's background includes application and analytical tool development to support business decision-making processes. He has over 30 years of domestic and international experience with firms including the Aberdeen Group and Oracle. And our second presenter this morning is Kerry Stover, Chief Operating Officer of Pariveda Solutions. They are also a Tenrox customer. Kerry has expertise in defining and implementing the strategy, organization, people, processes, and technology required to implement meaningful business change. Kerry has over 25 years of management and technology consulting experience in developing and implementing business strategies enabled by leading technology. Much of Kerry's experience comes from a variety of leadership positions he held in his 20-year career as a partner with Accenture, as well as executive positions at iThink Inc., an online market research services firm, and as Chief Information Officer with Efficient Networks, a Siemens company. And I'm Blake Bisson. I'm the Director of Product Marketing at Upland Software for Tenrox. And I have decades of experience as a senior executive in both startups and large publicly traded companies in product management, product marketing, marketing and sales. And at Upland, I've run originally power steering software, which is one of the Upland products, as well as today I run Tenrox, which is the professional services automation product. And with that, I'm going to hand everything over to David to begin this morning. Oh, one other housekeeping thing. Everyone's muted. If you look at your control panel, you can type a question in there for us and click send, and we will be keeping a tally of all the questions, which we will do it towards the end of the presentation. And now I'll hand it off to David.
Okay, great. Well, thank you very much, Blake, and thank you everyone for attending today's webinar. As Blake said, I'm Dave Hofferberth. I'm the founder and one of the managing directors of Service Performance Insight, or SPI Research as we refer to ourselves. We're a globally focused research and consulting firm that specializes in business improvement and transformation for project and services driven organizations. And we switch to the next slide. Okay, having a little problem getting to the next slide. Oh, there we go. I don't know if I did it. Okay, so for the past 8 years, we've used our industry standard professional services maturity benchmark to help professional services organizations assess, prioritize, and implement their service performance improvement and transformation plans. And recently, we announced our 8th annual study, the 2015 Professional Services Maturity Benchmark. And I apologize, Blake, I can't change it. So today I'll talk about First I'll introduce, for those of you who don't know about the Professional Services Maturity Benchmark, and I'm going to use data taken from 273 IT consultancies over the past 3 years. So this will be very interesting, considering normally when we do these types of events, we do the whole benchmark, but this one's specific to IT consultancies. And what I'm going to do is look at the market trends in the IT consulting sector and show what leaders, must do in this market to improve performance and profitability. I'm then going to discuss the value of professional services automation, not only as a tactical tool to improve project delivery, but also as a strategic tool to improve your entire organization. And then finally, I'll give you some recommendations for your firm to consider. And later in the broadcast, we will take questions and answers. Okay, so the professional service model, I wanted to spend a couple of minutes explaining it to you. We built the model about 8 years ago with the assumption professional services organizations are built on 5 foundational pillars that mirror functional groups. The first is leadership, which is a unique view of the future and the role the professional service organization will play in shaping it. And it really comes down to how your executives offer a clear and compelling strategy and provide focus for the organization. The second is client relationships, which is your sales, marketing, partner effectiveness, things like that. And then the middle pillar, which we consider the most important, is the human capital alignment. And that really is just your people. We know that in professional services, your people are your most important, your most valuable asset. And so how you recruit, hire, retain, and motivate them to be the best they can be is very important. And then the fourth pillar is service execution, which is really how you deliver projects, from resource management, project management, delivery, capturing time and expense, all of those issues. And then finally, finance and operations, which is the backbone of your organization. It's your revenue, your margin, your billing, collection, and your IT infrastructure. And in each of these pillars, we've developed 5 levels of maturity, which progress from level 1, where the processes are immature and the employee roles are yet to be defined, all the way to level 5, where organizations, methodologies, tools, and governments are very structured. And ideally, you're moving from level 1 to level 5 over a few years. And by design in our model, only 5% reach that level 5 performance. And you're going to hear from one of those companies later today that achieved this in all the pillars. And as I said, we had about 273 consultancies participate over the past 3 years. So I'll be using some of that data to give you an idea on the trends, as well as showing last year what some of the organizations did to improve. I'm sorry, I'm still having trouble. Blake, if you could hit the next one. The maturity model is designed to measure the impact of improvements in people, processes, and capital as the service organization matures. It not only measures individual service performance, but also correlates all areas of the professional services organizations. Now, most of the firms in this market focus on financial success as well as client satisfaction, and I mean that from an IT consultancy perspective. So in order to achieve the highest levels of financial success, including revenue and profit, professional services organizations must communicate and collaborate seamlessly. So this chart I'm showing on the top right is a graph of this year's scores from the finance and operations pillar on a scale of 1 to 100. And what's important here is you can see that no firm scored a 0. In other words, no firm operated really that poorly. But likewise, no firm scored over 70 out of 100, meaning even the best firms in our study every year can improve. So as we evaluate organizations by their level of maturity, in other words, how they perform, as I stated earlier, we use a 1 to 5 scale, with 1 being the lowest level and 5 being the most highest level. Now, across IT consultancies, again, this is just IT consultancy data, you can see how firms improve as they go from level 1 to level 5. Now, every time we do this, a lot of the executives immediately focus on the bottom line, which is profit. And again, in most IT consultancies, that is critical. But as you can see on this chart, and I know there's a lot of numbers here, all areas of the company improve as the organization matures. And that'll be a theme throughout this, is that you need your entire organization to perform well, not just individual areas. So real exciting information, and I'll get into a few more of these key performance indicators in subsequent slides. So looking at the IT service, you can see that, and I've got some specific KPIs on the next couple slides, but you can see that it really has pretty solid growth. Technology consulting is going to grow well for the next decade or so as companies really try to improve business processes, implement strategic technologies to help their companies grow and prosper. So a lot of good things there. But of course, when the market is growing, competition intensifies as well. And so we see competition from all over the world as we do our model every year. We also see faster service commoditization, which means companies are finally getting into building services a little more like product. Therefore, it's easier for everyone to understand what the service does, how much it costs, how long it takes to deliver the service, and therefore what the profit margins are. Just like when you go to the grocery store and buy food, it's pretty well laid out. Again, the war for talent, that is going to be a critical issue, and it was the #1 issue in this year's benchmark, and I expect it to be for years going by. And then lower billable utilization, we're always focused on that as a critical KPI in all professional services markets, but especially in IT consulting, as that is, that is the machine that drives the revenue. And I'll show a little information about attrition in the next slide or two. And so you can see some of these, I'm sure that most of you are seeing some of these trends in your own organization, and it's critical that we measure and monitor these to help you better prepare for the future. So the first thing is, the good news is the market's improving. We had a couple years of stagnant growth in IT consulting. Years ago it was pretty strong, but last year it really picked up, and we expect it to be over 10% for the foreseeable future. So the good news is there's plenty of demand for your organization. Also, what we're real happy with is the average project size in IT consulting is increasing as well. And this is important because project size really relates to better visibility. You can plan more efficiently as you have bigger projects because resources stay on one project as opposed to you having to worry about moving them from project to project. And so it's just good for the organization to have larger scale projects, and that also reflects confidence in the market that the technologies they're implementing are more beneficial. But of course, nothing is that easy, and so we've seen in the IT consulting market competition increase. The bid-to-win ratio has been going down recently, and what the bid-to-win ratio is it's a measure of out of every 10 bids you submit, how many do you win? So you'd think, well, gosh, 10 would be a great number to win every bid we submit, but what we try to tell organizations is that if you win every bid you submit, there's a good chance you're pricing your services too low, therefore leaving money on the table. And money is how you grow, and profit is how you grow and invest in your future. So we like anything over a bid-to-win of 6. And as you can see in IT consulting with the competition that we've seen over the past 3 years, this number continues to go down, and it's going to be increasingly difficult, so you're going to have to do things to focus on that. And then, of course, attrition, which is really the one thing that we always worry about in professional services. Now, it's been interesting in IT consulting is it's been going up steadily, but last year we actually had a good year with only 7.5%. So we were real happy when we saw it go down a year ago. The problem is it jumped up to 10% this year, and to be honest with you, we expect it to be much higher next year as well as we survey starting in September. So again, it costs, it could cost $150,000 for you to find, hire, train, and make an employee billable. So every time you lose someone, just think of it as $150,000 you just lost. You have to spend on the next employee. So again, attrition is going to be the #1 issue facing professional services in all segments, especially IT consulting. So today we're going to focus on, how to improve. And what I've done in the next 4 slides and a few slides later as well is I've segmented the IT consultancy market between the leaders and the rest of the organizations. And the leaders we define is our level 4 and level 5 performers. So in other words, about 20% of the market are in the leadership category. So it's always interesting to do this analysis, especially by vertical market, to better understand where the market's heading and what your organization might do to improve performance. So as you can see, the leaders in this market are getting more new clients. Now, those could be new clients in a new firm, or they could be new clients from within the firm you're already selling to, so you might sell to a different division. The point is, getting new clients enables you to sell more services and create more services, and obviously helping your organization grow. You can see that even the leaders had less than a 6 out of 10 bid-to-win ratio. So in other words, the market is competitive in IT consulting, and it's going to continue to be that way. And likewise, the deal pipeline, again, this is how much revenue you're trying to sell for the next quarter at the beginning of the quarter. And so about 234%, we like 300%. So 3-to-1 revenue you're in your pipeline to what you're going to actually deliver in a quarter is a good number. So again, all these KPIs really show that the leaders in this market are focused on sales. And so what we found is a lot of them are focused on package services, working more closely with sales and service. And we could get into integration of CRM and PSA, but I won't have time to do that today. But again, having those two organizations communicate so that sales is selling the highest margin services with available resources. And so you look at all these issues and the focus on just continuing to sell, continuing to build the pipeline, and limiting the amount of discounting you do for the firm. The second area, and again, one of the most important areas, if not the most important area, is your human capital, which is your people. Again, looking at our database of these 273 IT consultancies, we were struck with how much lower attrition was in the leaderships. Now, it's interesting. Attrition is one of those key performance indicators. When it's really low, it's not a good thing because maybe your firm, people just aren't leaving. But when it's really high, it's not a good thing either. But 6.5% for these leaders is just excellent. So, you're obviously a good firm if you're in this leadership category. So you're going to lose a few people, but not as much as firms where the people are dissatisfied, they don't see job growth, they don't see careers advancing, and so forth. And so, again, when we look at the KPIs in this sector, in human capital, it really shows how important it is for your organization to build a human capital talent structure that gets the best people and keeps the best people. So if your HR exec understands what's in demand, what sales is selling, what service is delivering, and then it develops hiring programs and training programs to get these people. And a lot of people say, well, cost or employee salaries and benefits are a big part of it. I think that is to a degree, but a lot of the workers coming out into the market these days are really focused on corporate culture and working in an environment where they really can enjoy themselves and learn. So it's not just about money as it perhaps was a decade or so ago. It really is about the right environment for your employees and making sure they have what they need to be successful in the marketplace. And then, of course, delivering efficiently. And again, more KPIs on the left that help show you how the best firms operate. And I could highlight any one of these. Some that we really like are, for instance, projects delivered on time. We think that's a critical KPI for success, as well as project overrun. Well, you'll notice 100% of the projects aren't delivered on time. We find this in every market we cover. But 85 isn't a bad place to start. So in other words, there's always going to be scope creep. There's always going to be things that go wrong. And the point is to minimize those so you get the work done on time so you can start on the next project. And when you do have project overrun, make sure the costs and time are not excessive. We also look at the best companies, and see how they have implemented standard delivery processes. So in other words, these are companies that like the repeatable processes, that people know what they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it, what the goals are, what the time is, what the cost is. Again, the better educated your employees are on what their responsibilities are, the much easier it is for you to build a high quality professional services workforce. So again, quality is one of the areas that we also measure, and you know, obviously the best companies are very focused on it and achieve superior quality. So again, there's a lot of issues, but this is where you make money in professional services, delivering efficiently and effectively. And then finally, managing finances. Again, another critical area for your company. You've done all this work. The question is, are you making money? And so what we found is that obviously if the best firms have higher levels of utilization, that means they're billing more hours per consultant. And we found in IT consultancies the difference can be 150 hours a year annually for these organizations, and that's $20,000 to $30,000 extra in billing per consultant. And so you can see why the average revenue per consultant is 28% higher for the leaders. But you'll also notice the average revenue per employee is even better. And what that means is that the best firms out there operate with lower overhead. In other words, they've got the workforce aligned, the sales force aligned, so that everybody knows what their roles and responsibilities are, and therefore there's less fat in the organization. And again, I talked about revenue per project increasing. You can see the best firms also have that as well. So again, there are a lot of different things that we really like about these leading firms. But of course, everybody tends to look at the bottom line, which is profit. And you can see the leaders are over double what the other 80% of the organizations, IT consultancies in our survey are. So in other words, you do everything right in your hiring, selling, and delivery, you're going to start seeing some great numbers, you know. And one of the areas that we focus at is the backlog of the organization. So in other words, at the beginning of the quarter, you're building your pipeline, but your backlog is also significant, meaning you've already sold the work, it's ready to start at the beginning of the quarter, and we see, you know, anything over 50% is a very positive number for the organization. Okay, so moving into the next section, one of the areas that I've covered for almost 20 years now is professional services automation. And I think when PSA as a market started, it really was focused on resource management, project management, you know, capturing all that time and billing information and trying to make the organization more productive. I think what we found as time went on was because PSA is the delivery arm of your organization, and that's how you make money in professional services, that the other organizations within in your company also use it. So the executives, for instance, use it to determine, you know, the services with the highest potential for growth and profit. Again, they may have 50 services, but they realize only a few are really delivering what they need. They go into the PSA solution and get the information and then focus the organization on those services. Likewise, your sales force uses it to better understand who the people are that are available, what their skills are, what they cost. Therefore, how do you price a service to meet your profit objectives? And of course, we'll get into talent later in this, but you know, focusing on who the people are that are in demand. You know, developing compensation and training to minimize attrition and maximize profitability. So as you can see on the right, the companies that utilize professional services automation, you know, they're about the same size, you know, just 2% smaller, so not a big difference in the size of the organization. But then I looked at the bottom and saw the profit is, you know, 1.5 times bigger. So in other words, they're doing a lot more with the same exact people. And I say it all the time that profit is the fuel for growth for your organization. You can't expand and grow internationally or add new services or new people unless you're making money year in and year out. So you can see that PSA, again, as a tactical tool, helps you deliver services, gets projects going quicker, increases utilization, but also as a strategic tool, helps your organization better plan and execute its work. And so the next thing is the integration of PSA. And if you've heard me speak before, I tend to talk about this a lot because we believe that the organization is aligned when everyone understands what's happening within the service delivery arm. And in particular, we focus a lot on PSA integrated with your core financial planning or ERP solution. And as you can see, there's a lot of information that is passed back and forth between the two solutions to improve productivity. And so I also highlighted on the right some of the key performance indicators that we saw as impressive when organizations not only implemented PSA, because all these organizations here implement PSA, but those organizations get an additional boost for having integration with PSA. And so, the biggies for me are your growing headcount, your growing services, and that's critical in this marketplace. Revenue per billable consultant, again, it's about 7% higher. You get a big boost for implementing PSA, but you get an additional boost when you integrate it back with the core financial management solution, and it's real critical to make sure that continues to happen. So again, all of these other key performance indicators we found in the IT consulting market really improved, somewhat as they moved from non-integrated PSA to integrated PSA. And so, again, in this market, which is heavily focused, obviously on technology, the people are technology savvy in this market, so they know how to utilize tools for their advantage, and therefore this is just a great place for them to start. And so again, in starting to close what I have to say today, I wanted everybody to understand that everything in your organization is related, and you're going to hear from a company here in a few minutes that's one of the best, and really, again, that means they do everything well, not just deliver services or not just sell services. And so when your organization is out there trying to grow and execute and become successful, you realize everything starts at the beginning with leadership and the vision and strategy they bring into your organization and implement. And then you look at things such as how you sell, how you price services, making sure that the client understands what's happening, when it's going to happen, what it will cost, and so forth. So really focused on selling and client satisfaction. And then, of course, making sure you have the right people at the right rates with the right training and all of those other attributes to make a world-class professional services organization. And then, of course, executing, getting the work done on time, on budget, high levels of quality, all of those things that go into success. And then ultimately that rolls in to your ability to grow and make money and focus on overhead and things like that. And again, this is a cycle. The more money you make, the more you can expand your organization to become successful. And so we work with a lot of companies in this marketplace. And again, excuse me, we track about 200 key performance indicators per company that we work with. And again, here's just a subset of those KPIs in the sales and marketing aspect, in HR, in project delivery, and in finance and operations. And so when we look at a company and we compare it to its peers, we categorize that by levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what we've done over the past 8 or 9 years now is when we've worked with companies, we've said, don't worry about where you're successful. In other words, if you're level 4 or 5 in something, that's wonderful. If you really want to get back to growing and making money, look at the areas that are level 1. In other words, the levels that are in red in this particular document. Those are the areas that you have to create initiatives to try to improve performance. And so every firm, no matter how well they operate, and even the best of the best have areas where they know they can improve. I'm sure Pariveda probably had a few that they didn't know they were level 1 or 2 in, but obviously they were high in a lot of other areas as well. So in other words, every company can improve, and it's focusing on that level where your level 1 is where you're going to make the money. So I'd like to thank everybody. Sorry about the snafu at the beginning with me not being able to move the slides, but I hope you got something out of this. And I'm going to be around after the presentation to answer some questions and answers. So I'll pass it on to Kerry. Thank you.
Thank you, David, and a great recap, and in particular highlighting several of the things that we've found in our journey in using SPI. We've been involved with SPI since 2005 when we first started, and we as a 3-year-old company were looking around trying to figure out how on a unique journey, which we'll talk about in a second, could we ensure that the things that we needed to do right, we understood where we stood in relationship to other firms. And in particular, 2 pillars were critical to us in moving forward. The leadership pillar that David talked about, and as well the human capital, was most important to us given the uniqueness of the journey that we are on. We've also been involved with Tenrox since 2006 as a then 3-year-old company, or in our 4th year. We looked for someone that could help us deliver on our core tenets as we look to build a firm on 2 very unique dimensions and have a 3rd tenet that was critical to the underline of it, which we'll get to in a second. Tenrox has been a partner with us for a number of years. We use it from the basic time entry aspects to get efficiency and holding to what we consider a weekly rhythm or heartbeat of the company, where people are focusing on getting their information into the system, and by Tuesday morning we're able to look and see our performance against forecasts from the week before. And on Wednesday we've got a complete holistic view across the company. We're also able to get out the billing, the invoicing accurately within a short number of days at the end of the month. We also particularly use it for staffing, and again we'll get to a uniqueness of our mission in our talent development for that and how we do that. Finally, a final notion is that we have these near real-time financials for the project and for our operations of the company, so we're not waiting on QuickBooks and other things to give us reports that are coming from accounting, but we as an operations group know where we stand. The uniqueness of the company I've spoken to a couple of times. As a consulting firm, we chose a unique path, and that is to put the employee and our people first and foremost. Now, many companies say that, but we took it from the founding, from our founder's decision to even start the company in saying that this had to be unique, it had to be about the people. And in doing so, we had a focus that we would be building people, developing them to their fullest potential. Regardless of what we do, that remains our focus. And in every process we have internally, we focus on, is this something that lifts people? Is this something that is helping them become better and achieve their full potential? A second notion that we had was, how do we build something that lasts over time? If we're focused on building people, we wanted the company to last. This wasn't a quick a get-rich scheme from the founders to build a consultancy and sell it after 10 years and have the employees go away. If we could build in processes that would allow us to see it pass from generation to generation of leadership, we would know that we could remain true to that talent development. And then finally, supporting that, we had to be transparent. Smart people, if we hire highly talented people, are going to seek to understand. Transparency helps them know how to run the business and how to build something that lasts from generation to generation. And SPI and Tenrox have been particularly critical in helping us achieve these by giving us transparency into our financials and to understand our growth over time and our ability to build something where we saw our leadership and our vision articulated and understood and how we compare to the competition. When we talk about developing people, our focus is in a marketplace, largely technology today as IT consultants, but understanding that our value comes from creating value at clients who are focused not just on the technology, but on how they run the business and what the product of the business is. So we focus on technology, but to be particularly valuable, we have to educate ourselves and be relevant in speaking to how the business runs, and then ultimately what products they deliver and how it works within their supply chain. Let's take two of those different architectures and look at them for a moment. If we compare the growth of an individual in an architecture, those two are growing, and so our technologists need to start at the basics at a consultant level of where technology touches a business. That's a very hard requirement in a hard system. The screen must do something, therefore I must code it to do that something. Pretty straightforward, pretty understandable. But mastery comes from building upon those skills as you've developed them and moving out of the hardness of how technology operates into the softness of what does a process look like, and then ultimately into the softer systems of how do I organize people to achieve a strategy within a structure. So our objective in our firm is that that is the highest potential, so that intersection of two circles. You are a solution architect between a business and technology, or a business and a product, and ultimately centering on that center circle, the intersection of all three, being able to articulate solutions that speak to all three of them. We focus on finding the top talent and then developing them to their fullest potential. To do that, we have no quotas, no requirements, no magic quadrants. Everybody stands as an individual in our firm and has the opportunity to move towards a vice president. We believe that achieving mastery allows you to develop into, and we can develop you faster as an individual to vice president than other firms through the various techniques we have in place. And with that, we find ourselves different than other companies who are very much focused on a top quarter of high performers, a top half of good performers, and then a lower half of adequate performers. With this, we can offer everybody meritocracy in terms of moving ahead against a standard that gives transparency. If we'll go to the next slide, because I think we're having a slight issue with synchronization. Thank you. That standard is an open, published performance expectations framework where we take each of the levels of the company and look at 5 roles that our employees have in the work that we do. And then at that intersection of level and role, we write short paragraphs about the performance as expected at that level, and we publish it. And employees can look at it, digest it, self-assess themselves, speak to their supervisors about how they're doing against it, challenge their supervisor on the feedback needed to move to the next level, give that feedback to people below them or around them to help them grow in their careers, all through an open published standard. And then semi-annually, there's a feedback given against that standard, and then promotion comes from proving that you've met the expectations and are showing that you can move into the next level. And it's open. So we don't have a quota into the number of promotions, etc. If we can build vice presidents, we are building our own business units moving forward. And in doing that, what we have to do then is to create high value, which is what we use SPI for, to help us measure the value we're getting compared to others in the marketplace. And that comes from working at the place where the highest value comes. Every company is looking to create value against their competition. And technology will continue to move over time. As a new technology is introduced, we have the opportunity to take something that wasn't feasible in a company before and make it feasible for them. By thinking about that and offering thought leadership, our senior executives grow by expanding the universe of what they've thought about before and challenging their clients into looking into white space. And our junior employees can then implement solutions to clients, ultimately creating value for both that employee for having learned this newer technology and for our clients for having delivered value ahead of what their competition is. And if we do that successfully, then we've strengthened trust with a client, which we believe then turns around and allows us to have the same conversation again as something else changes. Our 89% repeat and referral business is an indication that we're doing something right in that area, and it's another indication, as David said, that it is a far greater way to move forward in building your company. Our success over time, 2003, so we're now in our, keeping the numbers straight here, but we passed our decade journey a couple years ago. Now we're into our 12th or 13th year. We have grown dramatically, and Tenrox has been critical for helping us through what I think the whole industry would say were some dark times around 2009, and how we were going to get through that. Having that real-time financials was critical to us, and having an understanding of where people were deployed and how we could best use them in building their career. We've grown from a founding office in Dallas in 2003 to 9 offices across the country. Almost now I think the slide might be a day or so old because we have people coming, but over 400 people in the company, and we are rather young both in our age and as well as our employees. So we're on a journey, and we're thankful for Tenrox SPI for helping us in that. With that, Blake, I'm going to pass it back to you.
Thank you, Kerry. That was a great presentation. Sorry about we're having a little trouble with the syncing of the slides there, but I think we worked it out. Thank you, Dave, too. We're going to have both Dave and Kerry back in a few minutes to do a Q&A section, and then we'll wrap it up. So I'm going to talk a little, just briefly, and I only have a few slides about Upland software and specifically the Tenrox, which is our professional services automation offering. Upland is a company that has a number of cloud-based software products. They run and range from IT financial management to mobile engagement management, web content management. I won't go through them all. Tenrox is the product where I'm the product marketing director, and we're the host this morning, and we provide professional services automation. And this is for streamlining service delivery, resource management, expenses, time sheet, all those types of modules. And when we talk about professional services automation, we really are talking about not only professional services automation that provide offerings to outside clients, but even internal organizations that do cross-charging or tracking or resource management. So it could be an inside professional services organization as well as the outside. Upland is also, we're a public company. We're traded on the NASDAQ. We have several hundred employees globally. And let me get a little more into Tenrox specifically here. Tenrox PSA Professional Services Automation is a company or a product that's been around for 20 years. This is our 20th anniversary, which is quite an accomplishment for a software company. We started as a services organization, and we built a software application for our services that we were providing to the professional services industry. And from there, we grew out into a software company. And if you're in the services industry, whether some of these apply if you're dealing with external clients, some of them apply also if you are internal clients. You might ask yourself these questions. Are you allocating your resources to low margin projects? In the case of an internal organization, it might be strategic projects versus less strategic projects. Are they being allocated correctly? How can you increase your resource utilization? That's always a struggle no matter which type of service organization you are. Are you experiencing revenue leakage due to billing delays and manual billing processes? Do you enter and re-enter data into multiple systems? We find that very often in our when dealing with services companies that they have a variety of different systems where they have to enter data multiple times, whether it be for timekeeping, expense management, billing. And those all create points where you can have errors. And then can you manage overall if scope changes on a fixed bid project? How do you go about doing that? How do you handle the resources? So this is some research that was done by the National Computing Center that talks about why people find an advantage of professional services automation. What are the top reasons? And all of these are interconnected. One of the first things is to increase project effectiveness. Everyone wants to make sure that the project is going on track, that we have the right resources, that we're delivering on time, because typically that will lead to more work and happy customers. So everyone starts at that point. But then the other is they want better visibility on what's going on with the projects. Are they on schedule? Do they have the right resources? Do they need to adjust? Are there cost overruns? And that helps with the third point here, which is to improve the overall planning and forecasting of what's being delivered and knowing where you are in that delivery process with your customers. And then the last stage is to improve your resource utilization. Make sure that that you're using the correct people at the right projects at the right time. So those are the four key aspects when asked why people implement professional services automation. Now, when we talk about Tenrox, and I'm coming to the end of my slide, this is the what you have to listen to go through the whole webinar. So this is a little bit of the sales pitch here. We believe we're the best of breed PSA, professional services automation application. We have a lot of built-in connectors to other key applications that are best of breed, such as CRM solutions like Salesforce. Also, we hook into Concur for travel management. We hook into back-end office systems for financial, such as Oracle Financials, Quicken. And so we have a lot of back connectors built into the system. And we're able to actually add more as customers want them specifically for other needs. We have a dedicated team for deploying and training. So we do a lot of work that's very focused on making sure our customers are successful. We have continuous support to organization to help you. We're always refreshing our UI. We came out with a new UI last year, user interface that's intuitive, and it has a very rich feature set. We have a great visual workflow-driven architecture. It makes it very easy to configure based on how you do your business, and it reduces the learning curve. A lot of prepackaged applications in the marketplace for PSA are, because they're pre-configured and don't have any ability to adjust to how you do your business. You have to adjust your business to them, and that's one of our strengths. We're also built on the Microsoft stack, which means it's very easy for us to adapt. And it's a proven turnkey solution. I think being around 20 years says a lot. We wrote one of the first books on professional services automation over 10 years ago, and wrote another book after that on the project workforce management. So we have a lot of expertise in this area. I won't go through this too much. We could talk about all our awards and accolades over the years. These are just a few in the last couple of years. If I'd have a whole half hour to go through all the ones that we've won over the years. But we really are focused on enabling services organization to improve how you deliver your projects, resource management, and streamlining the accurate time and expense capture and billing. I won't read the slide. You can see all the key benefits on the left, and another number of the functional areas that we are very strong in. I would just add we also have mobile capabilities for those workforces that are traveling. For doing some of your professional services automation tasks on the road. We would love, if you're interested and you're looking for a professional services automation product, or you want to learn more about what Tenrox does, please come to our website. It's we're going to I'll do the credits at the end. I'm just getting ready to do the questions, but it's tenrox.com. It's very easy to remember, Tenrox. We have a lot of resources there. You can come to a weekly demo or get a custom demo. You can also, we have a thought leadership blog, as well as all of our webinars are pre-recorded and kept on the website under resources. So you're welcome to use any of that. With that, I'm going to just say that we're going to do the Q&A part. We have still have a few minutes left for that. And then at the very end, we will be giving you the PDU credits. I know people have been waiting for that. And we'll also be sending out, as I mentioned in the beginning, a recording of the presentation and the slides. So I'm going to switch back and forth between Dave and Kerry on the questions, to be fair. Dave, the first question I'm going to throw out to you is, what are some of the most important KPIs for IT service providers?
Well, Blake, yeah, I got into a few of them earlier, and like I said, we track about 200 in all. I think in every one of our, quote, pillars, there are important KPIs. For instance, in client relationships, it's really about revenue growth, bid to win, and pipeline. Obviously, in HR, it's about attrition and utilization, and then, of course, utilization crosses over into service delivery. So billable utilization, on-time delivery, client satisfaction is another biggie. And then maybe in the finance and operations pillar, the two that we always look at are revenue per billable consultant, which tells you how well you're delivering services, and then revenue per employee, which tells you how well your organization is running from purely a revenue perspective. Obviously, profitability is the biggie for all companies in the IT consulting marketplace. But again, there are a lot of different key performance indicators, and just starting with a few would really help you out.
Great. Let me switch now over to Kerry for one. Kerry, what is your biggest challenge with developing talent in your company?
The biggest challenge we have is finding it, which I think David pointed out is a big concern in the human capital alignment pillar. It's something that we go to college campuses increasingly to find individuals. We found that the STEM career is attractive and pays a lot more, and if we can get more people into it, so if anybody on the call has any young adults in your household or looking to go to college and find an attractive career, I would highly encourage it, and I would love to get their names also. But seriously, we love our processes. We've honed them over the years, and we think we've got a lot of the developing talent. But again, we're realists enough to know that we have to constantly assess it and look at ourselves and adapt over time. So that expectations framework is now in its third version after being developed back in 2003 at our founding.
Great. And please remember, if you do have some questions, you can type them in to the chat section on your control panel and send them to me, and I'll try and get to as many of them as we can. Dave, just switching back to you for a moment, how do you measure attrition?
How do we measure attrition? It's a basic question on the survey every year. Ideally, it's voluntary attrition, and that's the way most companies handle it. So, if you have 100 employees and 10 of those leave this year, it's 10%. Some companies tell us they measure it both voluntary and involuntary, which is always, which is a problem. Again, anytime you lose an employee who's of value to you, it can cost $150,000 or so to get that new employee in and billable. So for us, it really comes down to voluntary attrition, people that just decide to leave for another job, and that's usually why they leave. We don't ask that specific question on why they leave every year in our benchmark, but over the past 5 or 6 years, we've asked it, and it's usually for just a new job, a change, more money, maybe something that just interests them in a different market or so forth. Or in consulting, one of the issues that some people have is the travel, because sometimes it can be difficult.
Great. I'm going to switch back to you now, Kerry. You did some great discussions on how you develop your people and how they advance in your company. But how do you get started building a culture of learning inside a company when you're starting from scratch?
If I'm in some part of a company, I think it all starts with that leader of that small unit to inspire people and to give them the confidence that learning is valued and it's something worth investing their time. We had the luxury of our leader decided first in starting the company that it would be about learning. Our name even reflects that. But so we're benefiting from having that at our core. But unless the leadership takes a strong hand on it, it's hard to get it unilaterally across a company. But anybody in a company can be someone who creates change and sparks some sort of wave inside their unit to inspire people to continue to learn and grow by recognizing it, challenging them, and pointing out the opportunities for people that come from that growth. Oftentimes people aren't inspired to grow because no one's showing them the value of doing it and telling them with confidence that it's something that can be achieved.
Great. It's a great recommendation, and I know how important executive sponsorship is to anything like this, a big initiative like this. Dave, I think we have enough time for one more question before we move on to the PDU credit. Dave, one of the questions during your section was, is your definition of on time against the original plan or revised scope/plan where change orders are used?
It really does come into play based on the scope change. I mean, there's nothing wrong with scope change. You never hear of a company that delivers projects that doesn't have it. We expect that as the technologies change and as the projects grow, companies realize, oh my gosh, we can do some different things with this that'll benefit us. So there's no problem with scope change. But what's important is pricing in the hours and costs associated with that change. And so, if a project change in scope, your new commitment date, can you meet the new commitment date? Did you meet the new commitment date? And if not, how much farther over are you when you don't meet it? So, again, any change, every company has change in project delivery. I've never heard of one not having that. But the point is how you manage change would be the difference between great margins and losing money.
Great, thank you. So with that, I've put up the slide with the PDU credits for those of you that want it. This is through PMI.org. You'll need the provider ID as well as the course ID. You see listed on this page. This will be in the slides as well as the recording that we send out to everyone that registered. And with that, I want to thank Dave and Kerry for the excellent work they did today. Sorry about the technical difficulties, but I think we worked our way through it. And again, thank you for all of you for attending.